Ever wondered what it would feel like to grow up in a log cabin without power? With a mile hike uphill both ways in the snow to get to your cabin? And did you know that Sears and Roebuck back in the day used to give away these home kits in the mail in the Sears and Roebuck catalog? This story and more as we are going to talk about the early life of a person who grew up in this cabin and now produces some of the sweetest custom wood nets around. This is the Wet Fly Swing Podcast, where we show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that big trip, and what you can do to give back to the fish species you love. Hey, I'm Dave, host of the Wet Fly Swing Podcast. I've been fly fishing since I was a little kid. I grew up around a fly shop and have created one of the largest fly fishing podcasts in this country. I've also interviewed more of the greatest fly anglers than just about anyone in the world. Ethan Igleheart from Stonefly Nets is back on the show to shed some light on the 2024 custom build-out bonus. We're also going to get Ethan's biggest words of advice for himself if he was to start out fly fishing for the first time this week. Plus, we're going to find out who Papa Catfish is and where Ethan is heading on his trips this year. This is going to be a radical movement away from the norm. Here we go. Ethan from StoneflyNets.com. How you doing, Ethan?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm doing awesome. I'm excited to get a little update from you again. Stonefly Nets, you're doing some great stuff out there. We've had a number of episodes now. We'll have some links in the show notes to those. Today, we're going to re-announce, but we have this giveaway we're doing, the Stonefly, the 2024 Stonefly build-out, bonus giveaway. So today is Tuesday, and then in 2 days, we're going to be ending this giveaway. So the final chance is now, so people can go to wetflyswing.com/stonefly24, Stonefly24. We'll get them to that place, and this will be their last chance to enter to win the Stonefly net. So, but before we jump into some on nets and the giveaway, maybe you could just give us an update. What's been going on with you the last, maybe few months to 6 months?
I've just been prepping to get ready for the spring season, so I've got a bunch of new nets online, and I'm cranking out a batch of Tom Morgan nets right now. So they'll have a batch for the spring too. And I just got back from the Southeastern Wildlife Expo, and that was a great show, and got to see 40,000 of my closest friends.
That's right. Now, and which show again was that one?
It's the Southeastern Wildlife Expo, and it's held late February every year in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. And then I know you've talked about that one before, but is that when you say wildlife, does that mean it's mostly actual furry animals, or is this a mix of different like fish and wildlife and other stuff?
Basically anything that deals with the outdoors and animals you'll find there. So you'll find decoys, stamp collectors, fuzzy animals, dogs jumping off the dock into the water, overland vehicle type things. Yeah, basically a little bit of everything. So it covers from art to outdoor activities. It's well worth going to if you're in the area or looking for a fun activity, because they've got a ton of kids stuff too.
Oh, good. Good. So this is a great show. We'll throw a link out there as well to that one for those people who want to check that out. And then you mentioned the Tom Morgan, so that's still going strong. Now, at Tom Morgan, remind me again, who is the person or the people involved that you're working with over there at Tom Morgan?
So Joel bought out, I guess, late last year or early this year, Matt Barber. So it's just Joel Dobb over there now running the show.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't realize that. We had those guys on, it's probably been a few years now, so I didn't get that update. So you're working specifically with Joel, and then just give us a heads up on that, because this is a pretty cool, I think, thing you have going there. This is where you've got your nets branded with a nice Tom Morgan, and then people can, when they purchase the rod, they also can get the net. Is that how that works?
So there are two options. So I did 3 net designs for them. So there's a small, medium, and long-handled one, or small, medium, large. The medium, large are the same size hoop, just different handle lengths. But they're special design for them, and then they get inlaid with their coin. And you can either buy a net separately, or you can buy it with a rod. And what we're doing is matching the net handle to the reel seat on the rod. So you'll get matching woods there coming out of the same blank right next to the handle.
Oh, right. God, that's awesome. So, and the handle, you mean like the the reel seat and that with the burl is a similar burl, that sort of thing, or more like the whole handle?
So if you say you picked a Buckeye burl for your net handle, I'm cutting that reel seat out of the same Buckeye that's coming out of the handle. So they're touching. So reel seat and handle are all coming out of the same blank, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So you're getting a true identical, piece. It's not, a piece that's just sort of randomly picked. No, we're picking the piece right next to it.
Right. That is sweet. Awesome. Yeah, this is really cool. And yeah, we that's a very cool story too with the, just the history there with that company. So that's good. And then as far as what we have going with this giveaway, maybe let's do a little rundown on that. Your thoughts on the next steps here, because basically what's going to happen is we're going to choose a winner this week. And then after that, talk about after we get a winner, what that winner is going to get and what everybody else can follow along on.
So the winner's going to get a complete custom build out, and their build out process is identical to the build out process that anybody who comes to me for a custom net will go through. And that's basically they're going to get to pick all of the woods from the handle wood to the hoop wood, and they can see it go from being in the rough to being finished. And so you get to see the whole process, and you get to see some items that I don't share with the public. So you really get an in-depth understanding of how your net's made, and you get to see your net go through the entire process.
Perfect. And that process, and so to follow along with that, what is the best way for people listening now to follow kind of, the build out?
So to follow this giveaway build out, the easiest place is just to follow me on Instagram, and then you'll see it posted weekly through Instagram.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and we'll have some photos and videos, and we do have an episode we did, a short one which kind of showed a little bit of the process of just kind of putting together a net. But what is the first step once you get that winner on? What is the first step in building a custom wood net?
The first step is going to be a phone call, and this is kind of where I learn about your personality, what you like, what you don't like, what type of fishing you do, where you fish, and that'll set up the whole build process, because that's where we pick which net series you want, whether it's the backcountry, a river, the low country net, whatever net size you want. This is where we pick it, and then from there I kind of learn what you like in woods. You're not necessarily picking the wood in this phone conversation, but it gives me an idea of what to pull for you, to send to you to look at. And so you'll get to 3 or 4, depending on how far into the process we go. You'll get 3 or 4 or 6 or 8 different choices of woods to pick from, and then you can pick which one you like. And then once you pick that one, we'll start the whole process there. But it starts with a phone call, so I learn more about the person, because I think that's an important aspect of doing a custom build, is to learn about them and learn about their fishing.
Right. And so on this, and is that typically, if you get somebody that calls you up, is that how you do the process with anybody who wants a custom net? It always starts with that first phone call?
It always starts with the first phone call, unless they prefer to skip it. I'm not forcing anybody to chat with me on the phone.
Right.
But I think a phone call is really important, because it makes a more of a human connection.
Yeah.
And I think that's important in doing a custom build, is that I want to make sure that I'm building a net for that person and not what my vision is.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm just going to give a highlight. Before this show's over, we're going to have this fun fact, I think, that's going to blow people away here coming up, a new segment we're doing. But I think it applies really directly to, kind of what you're doing too, because you're doing these custom. I mean, I know you have nets that are there, but really I think what separates what you do is, these are custom nets. Like you said, you're refining them so they're perfectly fit for, the person. And as far as the equipment, let's just talk quick on the equipment, and then we'll jump into a couple of tips on kind of making sure to take care of your net. But what is, just roughly, you don't have to talk about all the equipment, but are you doing this mostly by hand? Are there any like power tools? I know there's some power tools, but talk about that. What is the process more hand, or is there any sort of automation here?
So they're two-step processes for me. So most of my nets, I say, are handcrafted because I'm using power tools to shape and clean and cut out the handles. I'm not using full automation like a CNC to cut the handles out. I'm
Right.
still hand cutting the handles out and then shaping them on a spindle sander. I can do a mostly handmade net where I do just hand tools to clean it up and shape it after it's been glued up, and I can do that. Most people don't choose that because it's just a really expensive option because there's more time and labor in it for me. So I'm mainly power tools. I'm mainly a spindle sander, a bandsaw, a planer joiner, and a router table, and those are basically my big tools.
Yep. Perfect.
And then I use the CNC to do the engraving. Again, I can hand engrave, but there's more labor and time involved, so there's more cost to that. So I give people two options. You can either have me do it by hand, or for $30, I can do it on the CNC. Most people take the $30 because they want a nicer handle.
That's right. That's right. Perfect. And so, if somebody has one of your nets, or is going to buy one, or maybe just has a wooden net in general, what are two or three tips on how do you assure that net stays in good shape over the years? Because I know you can they get thrown around a little bit sometimes, right? Banging on rocks and in the back of the truck. What would you be your advice there?
So my tip is don't leave it in the backyard and turn the sprinklers on and leave it there overnight. So when you're done using it, just let it drip dry, keep it dry. Don't keep it in the trunk or the back seat of your car in the middle of an Arizona summer. And that's really about it. Just keeping it dry and out of the blazing summer heat are really the two biggest things to keep them looking good. Every net maker out there has a different finish process, but my nets start with two coats of a tung oil finish that I mix myself, and then get five clear coats of a marine grade water-based poly that's got a UV inhibitor in it. So there's not a whole lot you need to do to really protect the net other than, like I said, keeping it dry and not baking it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's no need to, if, over years, if you're banging it on rocks and as you're catching fish and stuff, as it gets banged around, to kind of smooth that out or do anything there where you're kind of buffing that out to make it, I don't even, I'm just thinking my net, mine has been banged around quite a bit. It still looks very similar to when I first got it. But is that the case? You don't have to worry too much there?
So you have an option if it's looking dry, you can always get some, freeze wax and wax it. The problem with that is then you're stuck kind of doing that every year. I actually offer a refresh package where you send it back to me and for $40 plus shipping back to you, I'll sand it down, refinish it, put a new net bag in, and get it back to you.
Nice.
I have yet to do a refresh package. I think I've got one coming in the next couple weeks, and that'll be the first one in 5 years that I've refreshed.
There you go. So that's saying a lot about it then.
Yeah, generally the people who are hardest on nets are guides, and most everybody else is getting pretty good life out of my finish. I haven't seen one that isn't guide related that looks bad.
Okay. And what are the nets? As far as the styles, you have a few different styles. What do you think is the most common, style size that people are getting? And is this mostly a trout, or different types of regions around the country where you're getting a lot of orders from?
As far as I can tell, it's mainly trout. And it really, in person sales, I seem to sell a lot of the backcountry style net, which is sort of a medium, somewhere between a small and a large. And then online, I seem to sell a lot, or a lot of the custom orders are bouncing between the small river and the Walden. And the Walden is a larger net with a slightly longer handle, and the small river is a slightly smaller net. And those seem to be the most popular custom sizes.
Okay. And you did a net for one of our events, one of our giveaways. I think it was the Steelhead trip. And what was that? Describe that net a little bit. Was that a little bit of a larger size net?
Yeah, so that was the river net, which is my second largest net. There's one which I'm calling the Low Country, which is a 16 wide, 21 long hoop size with the 15-inch handle, and the river size is 13 by 19 with the 15-inch handle. And so the river size is it's one that comes in popularity and then sort of falls out of popularity. But really, I might do 20 of those nets a year compared to 40 of the small river and 30 of the Walden. The small river and the Walden by far are the two most popular, and the Walden is pretty close to the river. It's just a little bit more, it's got a little bit more style to it, a little bit more character.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. So that's a few of your net styles. And like we said, just a reminder, we're going to be choosing a winner here in 2 days, and at wetflyswing.com/stonefly24. People can get a last chance to enter this week before we close that up. And then we're going to be following along. So like you said, at Stonefly Nets on Instagram, also we'll be posting about it and probably collaborating on some stuff and just sharing out, because I think it's cool to see the behind the scenes, right? This is kind of the sausage, watching the sausage being made, right? We're getting an inside look at what this takes. And then the cool thing is that at the end of the day, I think we're probably going to be doing a short little snippet with the person who wins. And then we could talk to that person about, you know what I mean? Like how he's planning on using the net, or maybe it will be, he already have it on the water. Does that all sound about right?
Yeah, I when Chris won last year and you did the podcast with him, I enjoy listening to people, talk about how they fish, but it was really neat to hear him talk about how excited he was for the net. I don't get to see or hear that a lot. So it was fun just to hear that.
That was cool. That was cool. Yeah. And we'll put a link out to that episode we did, that short snippet as well. And so, yeah, I think we have a good track on what we're doing here. I have a couple of random ones and some fun stuff before we get out of here. So we're doing a little segment, and I'm gonna put you on the spot here, and because I know you do some fishing. Maybe let's start with that. Talk about that. Have you been able to get out? I know we're in the winter now, but as you look ahead, do you have any trips you're really excited about yourself that you're going to be going on, this spring, summer?
Yeah, so I'm headed to the White River for the sow bug roundup at the end of this month. Then I'm going to fish one day on the White, hopefully doing a night fishing trip for that one. And then in April, I'm headed to Colorado with a local group to fish the Frying Pan and that area. And then I always fish northern Colorado. I spend several weeks in northern Colorado every year. So I'll do that once runoff is over with. I'm predominantly a Colorado fishing guy.
That's right. You're in Colorado, even though in your hometown is, where are you physically?
I'm physically in Little Rock, so the Little Red is an hour and a half from me. The White River is about 3 hours, and I enjoy fishing both, but they're stocked very heavily. So I've become a wild fish kind of guy.
Yeah, sure. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. No, this is good. And then the White River. So I mean, we always love to go back to Chad Johnson down there. Now, are you connecting with him, or do you know about his game? Or are you going to be doing some similar stuff with the big streamer stuff?
I got in with another local guy. He was actually his business partner was a client of mine that was in Colorado that came here, and so I've just hooked up with that outfit. It's Brennan, or Papa Catfish, as people call him, out there on the White River.
Nice.
And so I did one trip with him a couple months ago and really liked it. So I just texted him and said, "You got space?" And he said yes. So I said, "Put me down."
There you go. I love that. Papa Catfish, man. That sounds like an entertaining person right there. That's a good. That sounds like a name somebody gave him, not something that he came up with.
Yeah. I haven't learned how he got the name, but yeah, no, he's a great guy and I really like him. He's definitely up there with one of my best guide trips.
Good. Okay, so So that's some of your stuff coming up, and we might be announcing something next year about potentially some stuff we're going to be doing. So we'll hold that for a little bit as well. But take it back to when you started. To think about when you started, what do you think would be, if you look back on I can't remember when you exactly started, but if you look back at when you started fishing, some advice you would have given yourself back when you started that would, you know what I mean, you wish you could have told yourself, what would that be?
It would be, don't be afraid to cover water. If you're in one spot and you're not catching fish, doesn't move because there's a fish feeding someplace. So don't be afraid to cover water. And I'm a firm believer in trying radically new things. Like,
Yeah,
if the flies you're using aren't working, you got nothing to lose. Tie on something that you think has no chance of ever working. And I've always been surprised at how just doing something out of the box kind of works for me.
nice. Those are awesome tips. We got a bonus tip in there too. I think, yeah, trying something radical. Definitely have heard that a few times from big, guides we've had on here. So that's awesome. And then the other thing you mentioned was moving. So that's something you found some success with as well.
Yeah, I've if you've got the space now, if you're crammed in with 50 of your closest friends, you might just want to move.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but yeah, what's happening in one hole isn't going to be necessarily the same thing that's happening two holes up. And just a little bit of change of flow or sunlight can change things a lot. And I have fished with people who will stand in the same spot for 6 hours,
Yeah,
um,
right.
and then complain that they only caught three fish, whereas I covered half a mile and caught 12 fish. Um, Moving does wonders.
Yeah, that's great. No, and I feel the same way. I think that's kind of how I fish too. I like to keep moving and getting some mileage in. So, all right, well, let's we're gonna take it out of here with our little kind of fun fact segment here, and we've been kicking this off, and I think you have a good one I alluded to at the start. So tell us, Ethan, what is one fun fact about yourself or Stonefly that you want to leave the listeners with today?
My fun fact is that when I was between when I was born in six, I grew up in Appalachia, North Carolina, in a house that my parents built by hand with a chainsaw and no other power tools. They bought it out of the Sears Roebuck catalog, put it together, and it had no power and no running water. And I can still remember using the outhouse in the middle of the night, which
Oh
totally
wow.
creeped me out.
Right. So now chainsaw Sears Roebuck catalog. Go into that a little bit. What does that mean? So they bought an actual house that came in the mail, or talk about that.
Yes, so when my parents moved to North Carolina, they bought a small piece of property and flipping through the Sears Roebuck catalog back in the early 70s, you could practically buy anything out of the catalog. And one of the items you could buy was a log cabin, and it came with all the parts and got delivered. And then they just hand assembled it, cutting out the notches and stacking the logs all themselves by hand, cutting out the notches with the chainsaw, and then, chisels and hand drills to put it all together. But yeah, no, it came out of the Sears Roebuck
Oh my
catalog.
gosh, that's
And
amazing.
now there's a whole generation out there that's like, what was that?
Right. Yeah.
I've severely dated myself now.
No, I love this. This is great. So do you have any idea, is that cabin still standing?
That cabin is still standing. I haven't been back in several years, but when my parents sold it, they sold it to a set of potters, and they were there for a long time. And we used to go back and see them pretty regularly. And they have recently sold it to another gentleman who my father has actually met and gone up there and seen the property.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an interesting time in my life.
And so you're saying you moved, so you were there until you were 6 years old?
I was there until I was six, and then we moved to Charleston, South Carolina in 79, 80.
Yeah, 798. And then do you remember? I mean, that's pretty early in your life, but do you remember as a kid that cabin, that house?
I do. I have fond memories of it. We had sheep, and we had a goat. I think we only had one horse. We might
Yeah.
have had two horses.
Wow.
I think we only had one.
Yep.
But yeah, I know I totally remember growing up in that house, and I have fond memories of that of growing up there. And
And what did your parents do for work?
at that time, both my parents were lawyers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, right. So lawyers, and you're actually living. Was that kind of a cabin, or was that like your full time residence there?
It was full time, and I can remember as a kid, we were up in the mountains, and so the road was maybe a mile long, maybe 2 miles long. And if we got enough snow, we couldn't drive up the driveway, so we'd have to park at the bottom and walk
Oh,
up.
awesome.
And I can remember doing that, and then you'd to get down, you just hop on a sled and sled down to the car.
Oh my gosh, this is great. I mean, I'm going to definitely tell my kids about this story. This is what I love about these because, that's one of those stories, right? But walked uphill both ways through the snow as a kid. I mean, that was you. And compared to now, and I'm
Yeah,
sure there's lots of places in the country where you can still find some of this, but I mean, a lot of these kids are, mine included, are stuck on the devices, and it's hard to, you know what I mean? Like it's a different thing. So I'm gonna definitely let them know this will be a fun one, and so that's cool, Ethan. I'm glad you shared that because I think that's what the fun fact segment is all about, getting a little deeper, kind of knowledge on all the people and the lives of folks on the podcast here. So,
and I'll go one deeper on the fun.
oh yeah,
We had a small black and white TV that we would hook up to the car battery,
oh wow,
and you could gauge the game was to gauge how small the picture could get before you had to take it, put it in the truck, and start it without having to jump the truck. And
right,
so we would swap out car batteries to watch the TV based on which one
oh
needed to be charged.
man, that's right. And back then, that's it. So just TV. Yeah, back when we had also right like what 4 channels or something like that, right? 4 or 5 channels, 3
Four channels if you were lucky.
if you're lucky. Right. I know. What a different. That's good. Okay. Well, maybe we'll leave the next fun fact to talk to you again, and we'll get some more stories on this history of your life. This sounds pretty awesome, and but I do think it is a good connection because I think what you have going at Stonefly, I feel like is kind of similar to that. I think, and what we do here at the podcast has always been for me, just the name first was Wet Fly Swing was for me throwing back to an older way of doing things, so I feel I love that because I love the history. I love all the people that have paved the way. On the net stuff, do you find it seems like you're kind of doing your own thing, but are there net makers, old school folks out there of or in history that you have followed, or is this something you've just jumped on and done your own thing?
So the nets came about because I had another business making and selling men's neckties and bow ties. And I had that business for almost 10 years. And the last year, I really just started not liking it because I was competing with a bunch of college kids on social media, and I was losing that. I was losing that game big time. So my wife suggested that I go be a fly fishing guide. And my first reaction is this is some sort of test. I should not fail this test.
Yeah.
But she was dead serious about it. And so I looked at it, and I talked to a good friend that had a guide service on the Little Red, and just came to the conclusion that it wasn't the smartest decision to make in life. And I knew woodworking from my past because I had done it as my full-time job before I got married. And so it just made sense. And I don't know really why I jumped on nets other than I wanted a wood net. And it was really kind of just that simple, you know. It just really kind of I knew it, and I really like doing it. I like making those connections with my customers and creating a piece that they're looking down the road to give to their children. And that's a vast majority of my clients is they're buying it for them, but are looking to hand it down. They want it to be in the family. And that's,
That's right.
the best part that I like about this is getting to be part of that.
I love that too. That's perfect, Ethan. And I feel the same way. I think that's how I think of it too with the kids, my kids. And, I have your net, and for sure that net will be, getting passed out. It's pretty cool, especially as my kids get more into it. My daughter, my youngest daughter, we did a show a couple weeks ago in California, and they got some casting instruction, from FFI certified instructors, and we came back and we stopped by the Golden Gate Casting Club, and it was pretty awesome, that history there out of San Francisco. And but when we got back, there's another event coming up here, and my daughter was like, "Oh man, there's this casting competition. I want to join it." So she's really excited, and I think that's the sort of stuff that I think you plant the seed, and then, you know what I mean? Like for me, thinking that I could pass this net down and my stuff down to them is pretty cool. So good, Ethan. Well, I think we'll leave it there. We'll send everybody out to stoneflynets.com if they want to check in and learn more about your nets. And then also, like I said, wetflyswing.com/stonefly24. Right now, last chance. We got 2 days left of this giveaway. And until we talk again, Ethan, thanks for your time, and looking forward to following the journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and looking forward to sharing it with you and all your followers.
There it is. You want to get a chance to win this big Stonefly net build-out bonus, you can do that right now, wetflyswing.com/stonefly24. That's Stonefly, the numbers 2 and 4. You can enter right now. We've got a couple days. Right now, it's early March. A couple days left of this build-out bonus. We've also got more big stuff going on this week as we just launched the massive Driftless giveaway. This is a trip to the Driftless area, the Dry Fly School, a big prize pack as always. You can check in on that right now, wetflyswing.com/giveaway. So we got back-to-back concurrent, not back-to-back, we got concurrent giveaways going right now. Another unprecedented event on the podcast. So hope you get a chance to join some of that. The next episode we have coming is going to be an awesome one. Tomorrow we have the Mississippi Valley Conservancy, who's going to be talking about the important things they have going out in the Mississippi Valley. This is out in the Driftless. They're doing a bunch of great work out there protecting habitat and the fish species that we love, like I mentioned. So that's coming out tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. We also have a solo bonus, and then we're going to finish this week up with the dude. The Great Lakes Dude is on Friday. He's wrapping up part 2 of the epic Fly Lines podcast series. So if you want to know about Fly Lines, Jeff Liskay, the Great Lakes Dude podcast is on this Friday. Big week. You know it when we've got episodes all week long. You know it's going to be massive. So I appreciate you. I'm going to get back to it right now because I've got a lot of work to do to prepare for all this. I thank you for stopping by today, and I hope you have a great morning, a great afternoon, or a great evening wherever in the world you are. And I look forward to seeing you and talking to you on that next podcast episode.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.